both very much. God
All right,
bless
now,
you.
thank you.
Good night.
All right. This is Night Talk. Hello. Hello, hello. This is Night Talk. You're on the air.
Assalamu alaikum, Bob.
Alaikum salam.
I respect you, I respect the sister, and I just had to seize the opportunity to encourage her. I am a Muslim. I entered the Nation of Islam. I was introduced to the Nation of Islam by Malcolm X. I respect the brother. Most importantly, the sister made a comment which is very true. Our true leader from Almighty God is the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Everything that is going on now is to divert our attention from our true leader. When I say our true leader, meaning someone that has not stolen out to the Euro world. The Euro world is certainly part of our race because we are the original. I'm going to try to be brief. There are a few books that I suggest that the sister and the Night Talk family try to get. One, The Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because that history that he put in there is very much true. Those prophecies are coming true today. Two, do not reject the Holy Bible because it says a King James Version, but the word is in there. The battle is not ours, but God. Thirdly, try to pick up the Holy Quran. You see the parallel between the Gospel and the Quran. Those stories are there. Lastly, and most importantly, there's a book called The Lost Books of the Bible. In there, if you read and the Forgotten Books of Eve, if you read the section on Barnabas, and this book was written by the European Americans, Barnabas clearly states and backs up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that there shall be 6,000 years of rule. One day he stated was 1,000 years. And that is backed up in the Bible by Peter, 2 Peter. We are in a fading out of the 6,000 years of a history of a people that know their time is here. 1555.
Wait, I'm going to run out of time.
I know. Let me conclude, Barbara, what I'm trying to bring out.
But you have to come right to the point because it's unsafe.
The point is this is a spiritual battle. No matter what you face, this is a spiritual battle, and we must have a renewing of our minds, and that's what the brother Kwame Ture was placed back in America today for this particular opportunity to continuously guide us on the right path. I have been into Africa.
All right.
I've changed the name, and I'm down with you.
All right. We are out of time. We're running out of time, and you've got to let some other people get through in the few minutes that we have left. We have to hurry. Hello, you're on the air.
I respect you.
I
respect your guest.
Thank you.
And agreeing with everything that's been said to a point, the question I raised then, with all the information that we have today, knowing even from the fact that some of our Negro leaders have denounced Minister Farrakhan to enhance their political career, my question is, how do we organize to get our youth this information and to motivate them around this kind of issue and the leadership of the past as well as the present? Because it seems like the media is always putting up and defining our leaders for us now, and those are the ones that has denounced Minister Farrakhan for the work he's done and the Nation of Islam. So it becomes sort of clear that the young people will look at a Malcolm X movie and come away with the attitudes and the behavior that it was the Nation of Islam. How could we turn that around? And
all right, we're going to run out of time. We need some time for the answer.
All right, I'll hang up.
All right.
Well, I'll just quickly say that we'll have to take an individual effort. If you know young brothers, if you have access, and most of us do have access to young brothers, spend time with those young brothers and sisters after school, when school is over, and talk to them, read to them, discuss the issues at hand with them, make sure they understand, allow them to ask questions of you. So it's going to take an individual effort.
All right, now if we hurry, we can get your call in. Hello, you're on the air.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I would like to see us continue to lift up Reverend Leon Sullivan. I don't think he would consider himself a black nationalist, but he founded the OICs of America, and he has always advocated the Bill Baby Bill concept of building our own institutions.
Mm-hmm.
That's black nationalism. Beg your pardon?
She said that's black nationalism.
That is black nationalism.
Where are you calling from?
Philadelphia.
All right, I appreciate your call. We're about to run out of time. I can try one more. Hello, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Brother Bob? Quickly, it's interesting that you pointed out that SCLC, OAAU membership is down. And ironically, as you also talked about the COINTEL operation, I think the Nation of Islam membership may be growing at this point, perhaps possibly due to the movement. As far as like local leadership, this has to do with the COINTELPRO. Should we postulate or should we assume that anytime we do see, even through progressive organizations like we have in New York with like December 12th or the organization, United African Movement, Respect Yourself Movement, when we see dissension amongst groups, local progressive groups, that there possibly could be COINTELPRO starting that sort of dissension, and should we be aware of that and not fall victim to it? What's your response to that kind of situation?
Should we consider that the COINTEL type effort
Because there's some dissension.
could be responsible for current dissensions?
Oh.
Louder, right into your phone.
Oh, I said, oh. Well, brother, I have to say that it depends on what's going on inside the organization. I'm not familiar with the two organizations, but I would say to you, to all black people who are constantly open, keep your eyes and ears open. Ask questions. Find out who's doing what. Find out who's tied to what other organizations or associations outside the organization they say they have their allegiance to. If you see hypocrites, if you hear and you witness an actions of people who say they're part of the struggle, you see them doing something else, you need to call that person, call the attention to that person and that person's activity within that organization. But one thing I don't want us to do, if there is dissension on the inside, I would like to see us deal with it internally and not go to the white media and tell the world that we don't have our act together.
All right.
Okay.
All right, now, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Queens, brother.
All right, now, thank you for your call.
Thank you.
We're about to run out of time. Our guest on page one, writer Getty Israel. The article appeared in December in a publication called Afrique, and it is entitled Seize the Time to Honor Living Black Leaders. Getty Israel points out that in a racist society, dead leaders blind us to the living reality. And again, I want to thank you for being with us and sharing your assessment on page one of Night Talk.
Thank you.
All right. All right, now, have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back with more Your Own Morning Thoughts after this. Talk about working miracles in my life and the possibilities thereof. There's Maya Angelou did the inaugural poem, and at President Bill Clinton's request, Maya Angelou wrote and read the first official inaugural poem in 32 years. And I want to just look at one of the things that Maya Angelou said very early in the poem, I think is a particularly significant observation. And it is something that we've kind of been talking about here and taking that particular message into the African American community, where I believe it is really very needed. It is something that I want to spend a little bit of time on an idea, an observation made by Maya Angelou in that poem. And so I want to talk about that for a minute and get your reaction. But before we look at the poem, look at that idea from the poem. One of the things that I think we need to be clear about is the extent to which efforts are constantly underway to intimidate the aspirations of oppressed people, whoever they might be. Women who are beaten and brutalized in your home, women who are in an oppressive situation. You know, there's one of the ways that is tolerated and maintained is that the woman's aspirations are attacked. It's an effort to undermine her aspirations, and she is made to feel that she's not entitled to any more. She's made to feel that she's not even entitled to protest her condition, because protesting her condition will antagonize her oppressor. So the woman then begins to say to the children, don't upset him, and don't make him angry, and don't talk too loud, and don't, just on pins and needles or eggshells, however you want to characterize that. Oppressed people are told that their aspirations are irresponsible, are incorrect. And as they begin to articulate their anger, their frustration, and their aspirations, it becomes threatening to those who would oppress. Not only women who are in a brutal, or what is the word I'm looking for? Women who are in an oppressive relationship or a violent relationship. Children who are in a repressive and violent circumstance. People, communities, a people who are being oppressed. It is the aspirations of the oppressed that are constantly under attack. Therefore, the oppressed become intimidated and are not quite clear, not quite sure what they are entitled to, not quite sure what they can express. They are not quite sure that they should even protest. Then they become concerned about the language of their protest. People attack the marchers for marching too much. They don't deal with the condition that brings on the march. They attack the marcher. Then they attack what the marcher said. Then they attack what the sign said. They don't deal with the atrocity that has occurred. They deal with how we respond to the atrocity. And so as we begin to have conversations, and of needs be, we have conversations in a public arena and are very frank, very honest. I remember I might have told you that I was in Chicago a couple of years ago, and we were sitting in a hotel lobby, and there was a group of white teenagers, about 30, who were on a field trip with a group of adults, and they were sitting in the lobby as a group on a large expand of staircase, a wide staircase, and they were all grouped on the wide staircase, and the adults in the group were explaining to them where their rooms were and handing out keys and go to your rooms and where they would meet in the morning and some of the sites they were going to see. They were just setting up the agenda. And so it was clear that they were young people who had been brought to Chicago to see the big city from wherever they had come. It was a group of white children. And I remember we said in that group of brothers who were sitting there that when they set that tour up, when they recruited the children for that tour, those white people did not say, this is we want to take white youth to Chicago. They just offer it in a community where there are only white youth. They just make it accessible and available to white youth. Now, when we do it, we would say we want to take black youth to Chicago. We just honest. We say that we have a need to expand the horizons and lift the level of awareness of the young people in our community. And so without apology, we will say we want to take black young people to Chicago. We want to take black young people to the museum, to wherever it is. Other people are not that honest. They connive the process, however, so that the invitation is only available, is only extended to and only accessible to white youth. But they aren't honest enough to say, we want to do this, we want to take white youth to Chicago. And so they present what they are doing as business as usual, and what we do as being peculiar. And then we have black people who become intimidated by that process and wonder, do we have a right to take a group of black young people anywhere? I mean, is that divisive? Is that going to antagonize members of the white community? It is even though our children have a need for greater exposure to ideas and to events, and this society, the public school system, for instance, youth service institutions are not going to do that. We have to do it ourselves. And as we begin to do for ourselves, our behavior is attacked, and often the attack intimidates us. But I want you to be clear. It is the aspirations of the oppressed that are always under attack in order to undermine the efforts of the oppressed toward their own liberation by causing them to consider that they are not entitled to a full expression of their needs, wants, and desires to be free. It is a con game that continues to be played out. It is part of the attack on black radio. It is the attack on black media. It is the attack on a certain kind of style among black leaders. It is the attack on Afrocentricity. It is to say that your aspirations are ill-conceived and irresponsible. So let's not talk about oppression. Let's not talk about the condition. Let's talk about how you respond. It's a trick. Just wanted to kind of suggest that. We might come back to that a little bit later on. We have to break. And I want to look at a observation, significant observation, made by Maya Angelou in her inaugural poem. Stay with me. This is Night Talk. I'm Bob Law, and let me share this thought with you. As you know by now, Maya Angelou was asked to write and read an inaugural poem, and so she did so. And she talked about a rock, a river, a tree, host to species long since departed. Now, very early in the poem, she says, let me give you the beginning of the poem. A rock, a river, a tree, host to species long since departed, mark the mastodon, the dinosaur, who left dried tokens of their sojourn here on our planet floor. Any broad alarm of their hastening doom is lost in the gloom of dust and ages. But today, the rock cries out to us clearly, forcefully, come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny. But seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance. Your mouths spilling words, armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Now here is the line that I think is significant. Here is the observation. that I think we should spend some time on. You, created only a little lower than the angels. That's significant. You, created only a little lower than the angels. I want to stay there for a minute. What that line observes is that we have in each of us great potential, many gifts. We are created only a little lower than the angels. And you know, angels have extraordinary power. But then, so do you. Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect. Be ye therefore perfect." And one of the reasons that we are capable of more, one of the reasons we are so capable is because we are not far removed from perfection. We were created only a little lower than the angels. Now, we might function and behave, as the poem says, lower than what we were created to do. We were created only a little lower than the angels, but we crouched even lower. Marcus Garvey said, "Up, ye mighty race, and accomplish what you will." If you get up, if we get up out of the crouch, you know, we are endowed with enormous potential, with enormous possibilities. Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect," saying that if you reach higher, if you stand up, you can achieve greatness. Said that we should want to be great. Now, there may be some risk involved. Because somebody said, if you don't carry the cross, you won't wear the crown. And bear the cross is what they mean. Bear your share of the ordeals. But Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there will be no progress. If we don't fight for what we believe in, what we believe in will never become a reality. If there's no cross, no crown. But if you are willing to do what is required of us, which means to study, and it means to work, it means to organize, it means to seek real answers and not cliches and slogans, and set up things so that, you know, easy little solutions based on slogans. If we're willing to bear the cross, we shall wear the crown. You know what I mean? But Maya Angelou points out a significant reminder. You created only a little lower than the angels. You were created only a little lower than the angels, but you have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance. All you have to do is get up. Now, what does that translate into? Now, understand, we have to break. Understand, if we were created only a little lower than the angels, then we also have enormous power. We also have enormous capabilities. But we have crouched. You have to crouch. You got to get down low in order to wallow in ignorance. You have to only read the newspapers for information. You have to only look at television newscasts for information. You have to make a decision to stay out of the library and to stay out of the bookstore and to stay away from the lecture series. You have to make a decision to get drunk every weekend and not expand your level of awareness or lift your level of awareness. You have to make a decision not to expand your consciousness. You have to deliberately crouch in order to avoid your greatness. Hold on, we'll be right back. In New York City, when we would send black students into a white school in Boston back in the 1970s, 1960s, white adults would come out and throw rocks and eggs at the bus and terrify the little black children. At one point, black people said, enough of that. We're not putting our children through that anymore. We're not going to let our children ride a bus that gets turned over or gets eggs smashed up against the window as we continue to beg white people to learn to live harmoniously with us. No more of that. Enough is enough. If whites are capable of living harmoniously, prove it. Show it. We're not saying no, that you can't come into the public schools. That is the decision of whites to stay out of the public schools, at least with their children, while, you know, the Board of Education in New York City is not a black board. The president is black, the chancellor is Puerto Rican, members of the board are black and white, Italian, Catholic, Jewish, Baptist. You know, there are whites who are very much involved in this process. This is not something that is exclusionary of whites. Whites are in it, but they are not necessarily working in the interest of racial harmony. I got to go. Somebody has got to be willing to challenge white people to stand up for what is right instead of tolerating what is wrong. All right?
All right. Well, I just think that you just see the Super Bowl.
No, I didn't.
When Michael Jackson, he had this, all the kids, like all the stadium all held hands, but they had kids, like, you know, people putting up cardboard for the colors and everything.
Yeah, that's what Michael Jackson does. Michael Jackson goes to get the babies to hold hands. What he needs to do, which he can't do and never tries, is go get their grandparents to hold hands. See, those children, they're not the problem. Black and white, brown, yellow children play together now. It's the adults who are the problem. See, all of those moves around racial harmony begin with the babies. Now, the babies are not the problem. The adults who declare war on other nations, the adults who traffic drugs, it's not children, it's adults. So people like Michael Jackson because he's harmless. He goes and gets children to hold hands and sing "We Are the World." But in the real world, it's not the children who need to learn to hold hands. It's the heads of state. It's the people who declare wars on other nations. You know, it is the people who set policy, that discriminate, that redline, that operate a flawed judicial system. And those are the people that Michael ignores. You know, if Michael Jackson, like there's like Bob Marley, also a prominent world-renowned entertainer, but Bob Marley addressed his calls for justice to the adults who are powerful and who set policy. Michael is playing with the children because that's harmless. That's why he was invited to the Super Bowl, because he's harmless. And I'm just aware of that and of saying it is time for a more realistic challenge where we begin to challenge the adults in this society to be for real.
I just want to answer one more question, then you could answer and I'll hang up. But I just wanted to know, like, if I was in your community, like, would I be accepted? You know, like, if I lived...
I got it.
Like,
I can answer.
Okay.
If you look at interracial couples, for instance, you will find that the interracial couples live in black communities or predominantly black communities. Interracial couples are not tolerated in white communities. In Philadelphia, interracial couple moved into a white community. They burned the lawn. They broke the windows. Benjamin Hooks from the NAACP had to go stand in the doorway.
Right.
And our experience has been that whites are more easily accepted in the black community than blacks are in the white community. That's why there are few white people or black people who live right in the heart of a really predominantly white community. Either they will be harassed or, not in every instance, but in the great majority of instances, whites begin to move out.
Okay.
History has already answered that question. White people are much better off among black people than are black people among white people.
Okay, I'll listen tomorrow.
All right.
All right.
Okay. We'll be right back.
How you doing, Bob?
Good.
I'd like to respond. See, we have no reason to trust white people. I mean, the records of Egypt and other places prove that, but we ignore the record. And I'd like to respond. I want you to respond to this. In terms of the international record of white people, it's quite poor. In 1993, for instance, they talk about the white people in South Africa. We're looking at the problem in Yugoslavia, for instance. And the clerk, not everybody knows this, but I guess I'm the only one, but the clerk says to his all-white parliament that if we don't negotiate, we're going to end up like another Yugoslavia. And they said that it's supposed to have elections by 93 because of various agencies pressuring the white racist regime in South Africa to go that way. And if let's say if a democratic government is set up in South Africa and there's black majority rule, by that position, of course, African power will be strengthened in the world, starting from South Africa, and we'll have a more respectable base to coordinate our activities. If that's true, is it possible for blacks within South Africa to hunt down, just like the Jews hunt down Nazis after World War II in Brazil and other places, to hunt down the racist people who set up the apartheid state in South Africa? Because in my opinion, I believe they have every right to hunt down, they can go the moderate way now, but once they come in power.
But what is the question now?
Oh, the question is, would you agree with that policy? For instance, in terms of
would they have a right to hunt down the criminals?
The criminals, yes, of South Africa.
Okay, I would think that.
I'll hang up in.
Okay, all right. I would think that yes, they have a right to hunt down the war criminals in South Africa who have murdered and brutalized African people, who have committed these decades of atrocities against African people in South Africa. However, as consistent with our tradition in the face of oppression, the leadership in South Africa, the African leadership, has already said that it is not their intention to hunt down anybody. That, see, we are the people who are the architects of forgive and forget. We are the people who, better than anybody else, turn the other cheek and distribute and demonstrate, rather, charity in the face of our enemies. The Africans have already said that it is not their intention to drive anybody into the sea or to chase anybody out of the land or to hunt down and penalize people who are guilty of past atrocities. I mean, that's the position already taken by the African leadership in South Africa, and it is our tradition. That's why, I say that it is really not acceptable. The argument that perhaps by dealing with the realities of our circumstance, we are being divisive. See, that's just really not acceptable. What we are doing, see, I do think that we have a need to plan to protect ourselves from further atrocities. I mean, one of the reasons that we want to be clear about our historical experiences is so that as we work out a newer relationship, we have some idea who we're dealing with and what their own historical tendencies are so that we can better protect ourselves. We'll be back in 2 minutes. 899-7711. Hello, you're on the air. Now, is that somebody you want to establish some harmony with? Hello, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm on the air?
Right now.
All right, peace, Brother Bob. I just want to say that we are no longer going to apologize for our coming together as a people. Kuzu Jakalia, we're not going to apologize for that Caucasians anymore. Because as you well pointed out, when Martin Luther King was alive and he fought for integration, they didn't even want us to integrate with them. So the call of the Caucasian, lady that called, and I've been hearing them for a while, speaking on we should come together, when really, in all actuality, they don't really want us to come together. Or I look at it at this point of view that when we did come together with them, with them in organizations, and found out that they really didn't have our best interests at heart except their own.
So you have to consider what would have happened if when Martin Luther King led a march for integration anywhere, Albany, Georgia, Selma, Alabama, what do you think would have happened if Norman Vincent Peale, prominent white preacher, if Billy Graham, prominent white preacher, if some of these white preachers, Schambach and all of these prominent white preachers, if they had joined him, what kind of, that would have sent a signal. What if Jerry Falwell, all of those guys, the guys on television on Sunday morning, if those white preachers, if they had come out and walked with him as he was walking for racial harmony, it would have sent a powerful message to white people that racial harmony was the correct posture. However, Billy Graham and Jerry Falwell never joined Dr. King.
It never was done, exactly.
The Shambach, whose program is only on black radio stations, and David Epley, white preachers who only on black and Mexican-American radio stations selling stuff. None of them ever joined Martin Luther King or any other movement or demonstration for racial harmony.
Exactly.
There were some white politicians, 2 or 3. There was some white labor leaders who would join in certain demonstrations, but there was no white prominent personality who was the equivalent of a Martin Luther King in the white community who ever supported this move for racial harmony. There would be some white entertainers, Marlon Brando, but at that point, white people would reject the entertainer as being influential. But since Dr. King was leading the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, made up primarily of, the leadership was made up primarily of ministers, what was the reason that prominent white preachers like Billy Graham never marched with Martin Luther King? Where is there any real indication from prominent personalities in the white community that there was a genuine desire for racial harmony? Now, there were white people who were part of that movement, and they were set upon and beaten by whites in the movement. I mean, whites in the street. When whites would come into the Civil Rights Project, they were fed and housed in the black community.
That's right.
Black people have always demonstrated the willingness to live together.
We always have.
But it becomes an irritant here and now for many white people if we raise the issues that divide us. They would pretend that we are dividing us by raising the issue. But it is the issue that divides us. See, if I point out that banks in this country still operate from a racist, biased perspective. They do. Now, there are some banks that do not, that we know of, 1 or 2, like the Community Capital Bank in Brooklyn, South Shore Bank in Chicago, Banks for Community Responsible Investing, and there's only 2 of them in the whole country. You know what I mean? We point out that the banks are still involved in immoral, illegal, discriminatory policies. Now, there are whites who say the problem is that you point that out. They don't say the problem is that the banks are still involved in those immoral practices. The problem is I pointed out.
And what's, like you said, now what's with that? Why are they saying that? Why are they saying that you pointed out? What's the problem with that?
And see, it is easier if we would kind of gloss over it. And it's easier if we would kind of pretend that it's not a serious problem anymore and just leave things the way they are. See, what's happening is that people, it's not so much that I'm pointing it out. I point it out in calling for changing it, which means that the status quo that people have become comfortable with, where certain people have power and certain people do not. Well, people are comfortable with that, particularly the people who feel that they share in the power. See, there are a lot of white people who have no power, but they do not admit that they have no power. They identify with the white power brokers. I come along explaining where the contradictions are. It reminds many whites that they don't have any power either. They're irritated by that. They want to continue to pretend that rich white folk care about them. See, when Reagan shut down the Air Traffic Controllers Union, when the government with Bush and Reagan foreclosed on farms, foreclosed on property, shut down small businesses, a lot of whites lost their job. Those whites do not want to admit that they lost their jobs because of a narrowly focused conservative administration that didn't care about them either. They are more comfortable in pretending that they lost their job because of some pressures from a civil rights movement, that they lost their jobs to some newly arrived immigrants from the Caribbean, or they lost their jobs to what they call an affirmative action program, where 12 out of 100 was set aside for black people. So the other 80 that lost their jobs, they want to pretend that they lost their jobs because 12 of the jobs were set aside for black folk. You know, they don't want to admit that the white power brokers in this society really don't care about working class or poor white people either. But when we talk about that, working class and poor whites who have been identifying with the system are uncomfortable with that. You know, they look up and look at the war in Iraq last year called Desert Storm. Most of the people who went to fight were working class and poor people, mostly black and also white. Rich whites. There's an article in Time or Newsweek that talked about how blue bloods won't participate in this war. Influential whites, politicians, money, they were able to keep their children out of the war. Poor whites don't want to be reminded that they are used as cannon fodder, just like black people are.
That's right.
But we are at a point of emotional stability now that is greater than the emotional stability of a great many white people. We have been dealing with the political and social realities in this society for a time now, for a measure of time, so that we are now able to more easily digest what the political realities are and start to look at more realistic solutions to changing it. Great many white people are still willing to accept the contradictions, to accept the discrepancies, and to pretend that it's not them. You know, is they're going to wait until the atrocities are fully visited upon them before they move to do anything about it. Not from us, but as they look at the police beat Rodney King, you know white people knew that that was wrong. You know that that jury in Simi Valley knew that those policemen were guilty of improper conduct. You know they knew that was wrong. People all over the world saw those videos. Nobody was confused about whether or not those policemen were guilty except white Americans. What white Americans are going to do is wait until the police are so out of control that they are beating white folk like that. It'll be, see, whites feel, even though it is an atrocity, we don't have to do anything about it because it's them that they're beating. You know, we don't have to worry about injustice because we are not the victims of injustice. They are going to wait until the atrocities are out of control. And only then, a day late and a dollar short, only when whites are being disrespected and beaten, only then will they respond. But see, our movement frees whites first. In the civil rights movement, when we come against Bull Connors in Birmingham, Alabama, Bull Connors was a brute in the way he treated black people. But he was also brutish in the way he treated white people. He did not only terrorize black people, he terrorized whites in Birmingham. Now, he terrorized blacks more so, and he would be part of a conspiracy to kill black folk. But he was taking money, extorting people, bullying people around, beating up on people. White people were better off after the civil rights movement removed Bull Connors from Birmingham, Alabama. The black police chief in Birmingham treats everybody like a human being. A white police chief would be afraid to do that because the white police chief would know that he is expected by the white community to continue the legacy of white privilege and continue to be a bully like Bull Connors. When we remove the bad white guy, everybody benefits. But when we raise the question of the bad white guy, it is when white people say, oh, no, 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 no. You can't say that. That's what divides us. I'm saying... that's right. But I'm saying my pointing it out is not what divides us. It's the reality. The situation being unchanged is what divides us. If you were making $75,000 a year, if your family, you lived in a really decent neighborhood, if you lived where you wanted to live and had the car in your garage that you wanted to have, if your children were in the school that you wanted to send them to, if you had the money that you want to have in your pocket and in your bank account, and if there was a whole community like that, black folk, Puerto Rican folk, whoever they are, it would be virtually impossible for me or anybody else to come along and say to you, come out in the street and protest your condition. You know, we could not get you to come out in the street and complain or fight against the schools in your neighborhood if the schools in your neighborhood were exactly what you wanted them to be. If they had excellent teachers, computers, equipment in the science lab, which they do not have. But if you had that in your school, how could we come to you and say, take your children out of school to protest the conditions in the school? Nobody responds simply because we call on them. People respond because what we are saying is correct.
Yeah.
People protest the conditions in the school. They do not come out just because I said come out. They come out when I say protest these conditions. The only reason people do it is because the conditions are so bad, they need to be protested.
Right.
But if you had schools, income, family, I mean, I couldn't walk into a prosperous middle class or any class, a prosperous black community, and tell you, come out of your house and protest the living conditions in this neighborhood. And you're sitting up by your pool drinking iced tea, and your neighbor looking over the fence at your neighbor next door, and your children and your neighbor's children playing in the pool in his house. And I come along and say, come out in the street, let's go march down the street and protest your living condition. Well, you would think that I was foolish, and I would be.
Yep.
People don't protest simply because somebody calls on them. They protest because it is a requirement of the conditions within which they live. And see, I'm saying that most whites understand that. So when they complain that we are complaining, they are lying and they know better. People know that you don't protest a good condition. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Jamaica. Just one more thing I want to say, Bob, before I hang up. I was watching Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know that brother's name, but he pointed out that we have no black culture. I don't know his name, but it really was striking. It was really, he played as Darth Vader. You know what I'm talking about? He played as Darth Vader.
Yeah. Edward James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I think James. But he has a deep voice.
Right. Hold on 1 minute. Hold on.
Right.
I don't need to go to college. College is stupid. I want to work, get a job, start my life. College is for people who don't know what they want to do with their life. I know what I want to do. Yeah, high school was great. I did well. I already had a good education. If there's anything else I need to know, hey, I'll read it in a book. So what do I need college for?
A dream unnurtured is so easily abandoned. That's why giving to the United Negro College Fund is so important. By keeping tuitions down at 41 predominantly black colleges, your donations have helped thousands of deserving students get a quality education. But the need is still enormous.
Really, it's all right, Dad. I don't need to go. Don't worry about it.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. A message from the United Negro College Fund and the Ad Council.
With me?
Yes.
Right now, you saw it was James Earl Jones on Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes, it was James Earl Jones on there. He said to her, she asked him, he said, yeah, you spoke on something about blacks having He said, yes, I mean, we have no black culture, you know, or anything, you know. We have no more connection to where we're from,
Oh,
you know.
Okay. But I don't know.
I just want you to respond.
Well, I don't know the context. I need to have heard the whole thing. There are two things that could be. One is someone saying that we have no culture and that we are not connected to any heritage or where we're from. Somebody could say that meaning that we are really literally no longer connected to where we're from because we have been so westernized by this environment. Or they could mean that we have been deliberately separated from it and we have no knowledge of our culture. And as a result, we behave as though we have no culture because we have been so separated from our heritage. And in one sense, that's true of a lot of our people. We behave as though we have no culture. We are not connected by way of knowledge and information to our heritage, but we definitely have a heritage, and we definitely have a culture, and we definitely are connected to a point of origin on this planet, Alkebu land, or Africa. We didn't fall out of the sky on America. So I don't know if James Earl Jones was saying he just realizes that that's the mindset of many of our people, or if he is saying that that's as it should be, that we are now this new group. See, there's a new group.
Now, that's what he said. Now, that's what he was saying.
Well, I think that's incorrect. There's a new group of people in the world. They are called universal people of color. See, these are people of color who do not want to identify with any particular heritage. Universal people of color don't come from anywhere. See, universal people of color can be loved and cherished and appreciated by Europeans because we don't, even though we are of color, we don't want that to identify us with Africa or Asia or, you know, and so we've got this new group, and it was made popular by the fashion industry in Europe when they would call for models who they say had no identity. They had to be, they wanted them to be of color because they say color is prettier, and brown and bronze skin is prettier, but they needed to look like they had no particular identity. So now, even people with clear African features are trying to become these universal people of color. A universal person of color is Tina Turner. See, Tina's got this phony accent. You know, she's from, what's this, Nutbush, Alabama? And Tina's got this accent that doesn't come from anywhere, but at least it's not African. You know, so she becomes a universal woman of color. Can't deny that she is of color. But if she can not be African, not be American, not be British, got this peculiar fake accent, she is, you know, and so there are a lot of people who, and James Earl Jones might be one of them, but I don't know. All right. All right now. Hello, you're on the air. I respect you.
I'm from Bronx, New York. About the Magic Fountain, the showing of Magic Fountain, is that going to be on 125th? Did you say 3rd Avenue?
No, the McDonald's is on 125th and I don't know the street, but it's like down the block from the state office building. It's on the east side. It's either Lenox or Adam Powell, but I'll find out exactly where. But it's the McDonald's down the block from the Apollo.
Okay, because I thought I heard you say 3rd Avenue, but I said I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
One being on 3rd Avenue.
Okay.
And can you also tell me, I heard you talk about the Magic Crown before, but I forgot whether it's a fairy tale or...
Oh, okay. It's an African fairy tale that I wrote. It's an original African fairy tale. People haven't read this or any version of it anywhere else. It is about two little children, Little Afua and Prince Osei, who go out to look for the magic crown because they have heard stories about a crown, this magic crown, that gives you great power. And grandfather, an old king, told Prince Osei that if he ever needed it, if he ever needed power, the magic crown was available to him, and the magic crown exists in an enchanted garden. And the adults in that community dismiss it as a children's tale. And so the little boy and little girl find this map that the old king told them they could find in his chamber if they ever needed it. And they find the map, and they follow the map to the enchanted garden, and they find the crown. And then on their way back, they run into a number of obstacles. Getting in was easy, getting out is difficult. And they run into a number of obstacles, and along the way, they have to use the magic crown. They say, put on the magic crown. And each time, they solve the problem. At the end, as they solve the problems, as they bring the crown back to the king who was to the doctor who was trying to diagnose the king's illness and couldn't do it, using the magic crown, he was able to do it. At the end of the story, the king points out that the real power is in your brain. When you put the magic crown on, what it does is energizes your brain. It utilizes the power that God has already given you. And it says, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then your spirit can achieve it, because you are God's greatest miracle. And then there's there's a little bit of magic as the crown changes back and forth a couple of times, and there's an elderly woman who intervenes just in the nick of time, and as a result of as the narrator says, in the African tradition, the doctor respected his elders, so he did what the woman told him to do, and that saved the day. And you have to buy it to see all the little details.
Oh, that's beautiful. I was telling my niece that she's 4 years old, and I was getting her all ready to go. I was excited. She was excited. So we'll be there Sunday.
Yeah, if for a 4-year-old, our experience has been 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds are particularly delighted. 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds really like it as well. 7-year-olds delighted. As for what surprises us is the children say, show it again, because it's a storybook on video. It's not like Disney animation with a lot of people flying around the screen. It's a storybook on video. There's a little bit of movement, but the camera does most of the moving around the illustrations. And they are storybook illustrations. We've added voices. There are youngsters, there are children who actually were the actors in the story. They did the voices. We have sound effects, the lion roars. We have music. We have running water. There's sound effects, there's music, there's voices. It brings what we say is that this is a book that you can pop into your VCR, and the book will read itself to your children. But it is very much a storybook, because we're at the same time trying to encourage youngsters to appreciate reading. And there's some copy on the screen that they can read at the end as it scrolls up the screen. And we ask parents to get their children to read the copy. It's in big type so they can see it easily, and do a little bit of reading as it explains the historical facts that exist in the fairy tale, because the Ashanti people, the Osei is a real person, Afua is a popular name for real among the Akan people. The Akan people really exist. So there are some things that the story is set in a real setting, and so that is explained, and children read that aloud at the end of the film.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right. So come see us, all right?
I will be there.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now, we'll be right back.
Yes, Bob Law.
I respect you.
I respect you.
And I was calling about, I haven't heard anyone talk about the show that was on 13 tonight. It was called Back to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very enlightening. It talks about the slavery times, and they have even got to a point now that they're having political problems because they're reenacting what happened during the slavery time, the slave beatings, how they people was taken abroad and brought all over in America. They even had a gentleman that went there. He was doing a study on his own roots from Kingston, Jamaica. And he had talked with the chief of the Yoruba tribe. And he made some beautiful statements about that his children was all over the world. And he even asked him about Jamaica. He said, yes, a lot of the tradition is still there. They showed trees that were cut and carved into beautiful designs and ornaments at that time. That he had went to the river to get the blessing from Osha. And it was beautiful. I don't know if anybody know when it's going to come back on again, but I would, gladly suggest that the family please watch it. Because it was very enlightening. It opens up a lot of understanding about our people in Nigeria, as well as the connection that we all have. And I also wanted to ask you, you know of when Leonard Jeffrey and them all go back and forth to Africa. When this gentleman went from Jamaica, he basically got in touch with an organization that these women were married to Nigerian men. And he had sat down and had a discussion with them about the difference of being there as well as in Jamaica. And me and my husband were thinking about going.
Wait, what is the question? I'm going to run out of time.
Oh, okay. I want to know if there are any organizations that I could get in touch with about, the trips to Africa that I could get with someone that talks the language. That could take me around.
Yeah, yes, and I don't know the names offhand. There are a couple of groups. Dr. Ben takes people.
Right.
With him, Dr. Jeffries organizes trips from time to time, but Dr. Ben does it on a regular basis.
Okay.
Akbar's Books and Things from St. Louis. Akbar Muhammad also does it as a travel agent, organizes trips on a regular basis. I'll try to get some of those names and addresses for you, all right?
Oh, that'd be great.
All right,
and I'd like to also find out, when is it going to come on again, if anyone knows.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now, thank you. Hello, you're on the air.
I respect you, Bob.
I respect you.
Last year, Geraldine Daniels initiated a bill in the Assembly that this year, and the bill was passed, that this year is Black History Year. A lot of people are unaware of this. It's also on Drive Time Dialogue. Black History Year started the 1st of January.
And so, what about it?
No, I just wanted to, to put on the airway that if this could be correct, because everyone is saying Black History Month.
Oh, yeah, well, February is set aside by that same government as Black History Month. Somebody else might decide. Geraldine Daniels is talking about New York State.
Yeah, New York, right.
Yeah, February is African History Month all over the country. And the designation of something different in one state doesn't change the fact that all around the country people will relate to February as African History Month, because it is only that month that Board of Education programs, government programs are actually enacted, recognizing African heritage. Now, people are correct to talk about it as a month. We are correct, however, when we reject all of that. We say that African heritage is not a one-month observance. It is a year-long observance every year. We've already moved to the year being, we do things throughout the year. And it is more than just history celebrations. This struggle with the Board of Education around the country is part of our recognition of our African heritage.
I did partake with you when you made the demonstration.
All right.
And what it is, what hurt me was that you can maybe recall that when we went to school, it was Negro History Week.
Yeah.
And it really irked me when they had us sing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
It's one of the things that we were talking about a little bit earlier. There was a time when all of what we did that addressed our condition was done in a way that whites would be comfortable with. That's changed. We now do things in a way that we are comfortable with. There are whites who have no problem with it, but there are still many whites who are more comfortable in dictating how we talk, what we talk about, how we frame the discussion so that they can remain comfortable. But that time is changing as well. We have to break. We'll come right back. Take as many of your phone calls as we can in the minutes that we have left.
Hello, this is Cloris Leachman. For 75 years, kids in trouble and families in crisis have found the help and healing they need at Boys Town's world-famous campus in Nebraska. And now, as part of a national expansion, Boys Town has brought its programs to the boys, girls, and families right here in New York City. For more information about Boys Town of New York, call toll-free 1-800-545-7889.
Hello and welcome to Your Opinion Counts. I'm Dr. Howard Gordon, and this week we'll be taking a closer look at violence against women in the media.
With me today is Susan Fair, Director of Women's Studies at University of California, Los Angeles. The phone lines are open for...
Every time a forest burns, it's like another voice in the world was just silenced. Be careful with campfires in the forest, and remember the words of Smokey Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. Brought to you by the Advertising Council, USDA Forest Service, and your state forester.